Take a pit stop for all things NASCAR with the Four Tire Change podcast. Here is your host, Dawson Iserlo.
Welcome back into the Four Tire Change podcast. Dawson Iserlo with you here, ESPN Southwest Louisiana, as the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs roll on. It was elimination day at the Charlotte Roval, and we had no shortage of drama. That is for sure. Appreciate you for tuning in as we continue now into the round of 8. Round of 12 concluded, and we had some big question marks about who was going to move on. Maybe a chance for somebody to pull off a surprise win. That didn't end up happening, but we did have some battles for the last spot, and then, of course, some drama after the race actually concluded. So, let's go through it here. Look, personally, I've said it before. I'm just going to reiterate it because I think it's worth bringing up almost every time we go to a road course. I hate the fact that they brought the stages back where they stop the race and it messes up the flow of things. You get a lot of drivers that have to decide, do I want stage points or do I want to compete for the win? I don't think you should have to make that decision. I think it should be about who is, navigating the course the best, who's, making the best adjustments, who's got the most speed. Instead, that's not what it is. I understand why they do it, but I'm not a fan of it. So now that we get that out of the way, and you see that, right? It's the way the stages played out here. Kyle Larson ends up dominating this race, but he didn't dominate the stages because, they have everything else that's going on. But all in all here, in the first few portions of this thing, like the drivers who we were thinking maybe can jump up and do something, right? Can Suarez pull off a surprise win? Can Austin Cindric do it? Suarez, never really a factor. I know he got up there in stage 2 a little bit, had a chance, but wasn't able to sustain it and then had some issues. Cindric runs well, and, you were kind of thinking, is there a chance here? Chase Briscoe just did not have it, and that, Stewart-Haas team as a whole just kind of feels like they ran out of steam down the stretch, so that was unfortunate for him. So the three kind of Cinderella stories of the playoffs, none of them a huge factor with the exception of Cindric kind of lingering. It was the battle for those last couple spots, right? And it's Joey Logano, and it's Tyler Reddick, and it's Denny Hamlin maybe feeling like they're going to factor into that mix a bit, and it's Alex Bowman, although Bowman was feeling like he was safe. More on Bowman, of course, in just a bit. But then you get to that final stage, and it's pretty clear, okay, Kyle Larson's dominant here. Like, I don't know if anyone's running down Kyle Larson as long as we don't get some crazy restart at the end. So after that all kind of transpires and you kind of have an idea of who's going to be the ones, in contention to win the race, now you have these battles, and it's Reddick trying to make up points, and can he find a way? And Logano is also trying to keep himself afloat. Reddick has a couple moments there. I mean, look, when he drifts out and he's going to potentially spin and he runs into Daniel Hemrick, that saves his season right there. So, a couple different things, and it was really fascinating to watch it. Now, I will say, overall, I'm just not a huge fan of the Charlotte Roval. I really think we should be racing at the Charlotte Oval again in the playoffs. I don't care if it's another mile and a half, to be honest with you. I just think the racing's that good. And the Coke 600 has become, like what it used to be. Everybody looks forward to that race, and so why not have, and look, I don't think it needs to be 600 miles again, but have a 400-mile race at the Charlotte Oval, and see what that would look like in a playoff atmosphere. But all in all, the Roval, the changes they made, look, I don't know if they made a ton of difference. You saw Bubba get the penalty. That was a little controversial. They've got to make those calls. I think it's difficult. NASCAR had a rough officiating week, especially in the Xfinity Series. We won't get too far into it, but Parker Kligerman, in my opinion, was kind of robbed there. The caution obviously should have came out way before, but then once you let it go, you got to let that race run out. And I think Kligerman should have won the thing, but. All in all, that's really, really unfortunate for a guy who looks like he's going away from full-time driving, going towards the TV side of things, and he had a chance to kind of have a little Cinderella run of his own into the round of 8 in the Xfinity Series playoffs. But back to the Cup Series side of things, a couple other things that played out throughout this deal. I thought the racing was okay. Like, again, I just don't love the Roval, but you do at least have the opportunities to make passes at different points, especially in the oval portion. Like, you can make moves, so that part's nice. But as Reddick's kind of working his way through the field, it's kind of a battle against the clock, and he finally gets up over the line. It felt like that was going to be the big story, right? Reddick beats out Logano for that last spot, and everybody else is kind of smoothly into the next round. And that's what we thought. And then Kyle Larson cruises to victory, which, by the way, let's make the note, Kyle Larson, with all the playoff points he's built up, even with the whole situation that happened when he didn't finish the 600 after trying to come from Indy, he ends up with this many playoff points going in the round of 8, being in this good of a spot. Like, he has done an unbelievable job. And to think he'd be even farther ahead if it wasn't for that little, situation that we all know how it unfolded. So very difficult to imagine a Final Four that's not going to have Kyle Larson. We'll get to the Final Four stuff in just a minute. So the race ends. Joey Logano just on the odd man out here. Unfortunate for him, right? And he had a little run in there with Austin Dillon that cost him, or Austin Dillon's incident is what cost Logano some spots. Not the same thing as an actual run in. But all things considered, you go, all right, there's our 8, and then Alex Bowman gets disqualified. I mean, just again in a year that's had so many weird happenings, right? And the Hamlin penalty for the engine stuff, and now this Bowman penalty. Just another thing. You go, what just happened? And Bowman's car's underweight. And then what's even maybe more surprising to me is Hendrick comes out and goes, "That's our fault. We're not going to appeal. Like, we made the mistake." And so that's just another one. You go, how does that happen? You're talking about a playoff contender. A guy who was going to be in the round of 8. Hendrick was going to have all 4 of their cars in the final 8. First time that they were going to have that opportunity. And it's taken away from them because of what seems like a silly mistake, right? I mean, you can't imagine they would have done it to try and gain a competitive advantage because they know these cars are going to go through tech after the race. And all the playoff drivers go through it. You knew that was going to happen. So I can't imagine it was intentional. It feels like maybe just an oversight. And either way, Bowman's out. So now Joey Logano's race for the championship is back in, and we know how good Logano can be when it comes clutch time. So very surprising. The interesting thing about it, and this is a point that I want to get to now that we know our final 8. It's Larson, it's Bell, Reddick, Byron, Blaney, Hamlin, Elliott, Logano. Maybe the most power, maybe the best 8 we've had in a final 8. There's no one who got there and you go, well, that's a nice story. They snuck in, right? And if Suarez or Cindric, no offense to them, if they snuck in, we'd have been like, well, nice story for them, but, they don't have much of a chance to get to the Final Four, we don't think. You've got 8 real contenders, and what's more impressive is I just went through how chaotic the first 2 rounds could have and in some ways were. Road course and a super speedway in each of the first 2 rounds. Like, that is, gave you a lot of chances for some of these drivers who maybe didn't have the best year all year long to make it through. But yet the cream rose to the top, right? And even though you replaced Bowman with Logano, you go, oh, okay, Bowman, who had a really, really great run down the stretch, replaced with a multiple-time Cup champion, like, we still have an incredible 8. So I think the round of 8 is going to be really exciting. And the other thing about it is you kind of get those fluky tracks out of the deal for this round, right? You're going to Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville. So we're going to kind of know who the best 4 are, I think. And I think they're going to be well-deserving. And there's an argument to be made that you're going to get to the championship race and feel like any of the 4 are very deserving champions. And there's some years, I've said it on this platform before, that I don't think that's the case, right? Let's go through the points real quick. Larson, how insane is this? He is plus 33. He's 20 points clear of second. So Kyle Larson has a chance to have a bad race or something in it and not matter. Not that I think the 5 team's not going to be fast. They're going to be amazingly fast. Christopher Bell plus 13. Tyler Reddick plus 10. William Byron plus 4. Ryan Blaney minus 4. Denny Hamlin minus 8. Chase Elliott minus 9. Joey Logano minus 11. So that's so bunched up. I mean, from Bell down to Logano, literally, anyone past Larson, you feel not great about them being a shoo-in, right? They're going to have to work for it and earn it. I think Denny Hamlin's put himself in a spot to be, right back in the mix again. I would really kind of be watching out for that number 11 team this next round. Chase Elliott's been so consistent. I still think he has the best average finish of any driver in the series this year. Those 2, I think, are the ones that are below the cut line that I'm really watching out for. I think Blaney's maybe lost a little bit of steam. I don't know if I trust the Penske cars to go to a mile and a half back-to-back weeks and really bring it. Tyler Reddick, who, has to work for it, and we kind of all thought he was going to be here, but he took the scenic route, right, to get into the round of 8. He's got that 10-point buffer back, right, because you reset it with the playoff points, so you get that bonus back in his back pocket, and I think that's massive for him. And going to a couple racetracks, we expect Reddick to be fast. I think there's no doubt about it. He's going to bring speed. So, got to like the position he's in. I've said it before. For me, Christopher Bell is just a guy who I don't count out in these playoffs. Like, once he's in it, when he needs a big performance, feels like that 20 team gets it done, and it's been like that for a few years now. So, if I'm re-racking my Final Four here, you got to put Larson in there just because of the point situation he's in. I think I got to put Christopher Bell in there as well. I would go, with Denny Hamlin, and then it would be really for me down to Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott. And I think just because of the point situation, I'm going to go Tyler Reddick. But I think Elliott's going to have a say in that, right? And maybe I'm putting a little too much stock in it, but think about it. That's an 18-point difference between Reddick and Hamlin, 19 between Reddick and Elliott. So it will take some, either some slip-ups from Reddick's team or some really good performances from Hamlin's team to make up that ground. I think they have the chance to do it, though, and I think it's going to be an interesting, final 3 races of the round of 8 to get to that final 4, where we, of course, will go to Phoenix. I mentioned it, Las Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville. So you got a mile and a half, and then a short track there. That, to me, it does have a little bit of balance, but I'm going with the guys who've had speed all year long, and you saw that in my predictions, right? Larson's been good everywhere. I really do think Hamlin, when you talk about the points, penalties, everything else, he deserves to be in a better spot than he's in right now, just in my personal opinion. I think they have had speed just about everywhere. And Elliott's right there, too. I just think ultimately Reddick, with that points advantage, is going to be able to use that. But, look, we'll see. Can Reddick go to Martinsville and kind of live up to that if he's got a small margin? We know how good the Hendrick cars can be there if they get it right. So a lot of fascinating stuff. And, look, certainly it's one of those rounds where, like I said, you can't really count on anybody. I didn't mention Blaney or Logano here. I didn't mention William Byron, who for, portions of this season looked like the clear-cut favorite. They've just been okay. They haven't been bad. They've just been okay of late. And maybe that 2014 finds some of the speed they had earlier in the season. And if they do that, then by no means can you count them out either. They start this, round above the cut line. So should be fascinating, should be fun. We'll see how aggressive these drivers are able to get, right? And, you have a couple chances at these types of tracks to really put together some big performances. So I can't wait for it. Should be a lot of fun. As far as a winner at Vegas, and I've thought about this one a lot. So many non-playoff drivers coming through, and Larson ends that streak with a win at the Roval. So I really, really leaned maybe going non-playoff driver, but ultimately I will stick with the drivers in the field here, and I think Denny Hamlin gets it done right away. How big would that be for him, right, to take the pressure off, get the win at Vegas, and then not have to really focus too much on your finish, trying to earn as many points as you can at Homestead and Martinsville and just free yourself up to go for another win? I think Denny Hamlin is the one who gets it done at Vegas, and that would be a massive shakeup, right? If any of these 8 get it done, which good chance one of them does, that takes so much pressure off the next 2. So interesting to see how it'll play out. We'll have, of course, next week's 4-tire change, wrapping it up, get you set up for Homestead, which is one of my favorite tracks on the circuit. Disappointed that it's moving out of the playoffs next year, but for now, we can still enjoy that thing, and I certainly look forward to doing so. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Continue to like, comment, subscribe. It's 4-Tire Change Podcast, ESPN Southwest Louisiana. We'll see you next week.